Alright, there's a couple of things here that I want to cover about sewing this welt on. So typically the seam for the welt is somewhere in this area here where you start and then stop. And then another thing is you get this seam in the welt material. Obviously it's a natural product. It's not like you can just get an infinite length of this stuff, and so they have these little seams in them that are skived at an angle. And generally speaking, you want to make it so that that doesn't end up in a heel or toe situation and spread that out and make that split in the future. So you try to get that in one of these straighter runs if you can. Mine's at the end. I don't really know where it's going to end up. It gets sewn on like this, and so maybe we could start it here. Maybe I start on this end, and by the time we get around to there, it'll still end up being somewhere around there. I don't know. Maybe I'll do that. I'm using this stuff, Ritza something. There it is, Ritza, 1mm, waxed. Forget the color, but it's brown. It doesn't show anyway. So you take three of these. 1, 2, 3. And then that doesn't look very good, but I think we can do that. We can get that going some other way. And then the other thing here is, well, I can just show you on this. So first of all, I don't want this first stitch to be right by the edge. I want to start it in some, maybe about there. And that way when I come back around and I'm coming over here, my stitching will continue through into this one, instead of just the stitching starting here and ending on the other one. And then when you're doing this, obviously this groove that's been cut into this welt material is for the stitching, and so you start there. Let's see, I said something about like that. So I'll start there, and then see how I'm kind of holding this at a 45-degree angle? What I want to do is come out right there on the peak of that bevel, and that's the angle that I'm going to be shooting for as I go all the way across there. And then after that, it's just like I was doing for these stitches. Hit the black line, go into the bottom of the gimming. I forget what this is called. I don't think it's called chain stitching, but let's start somewhere around here, I guess. So black line, okay, I'm through the upper and this elastic and all that. So now I'm just going to hit the bottom of the gimming. That looks pretty good. Now we'll take this big long thread, come back through all of it, and I'm going to take this thread and basically equalize it, so to speak, so that there's the same amount of it on either side of this starting point. So I'm going to come way out here and grab the two ends of it. I'm going to put them together, and I'm just going to come back to the middle here. And that's the middle. Alright. So now this is all guesswork and me just kind of using my best judgment. So I'm going to go I don't know, 1/4 inch away, going at an angle, hopefully. I feel like I've come out around that bevel. It's pretty good. Now I'm gonna, I don't know if you can see this, but I'm gonna try to guess the same distance that I am on the welt. I'm gonna try to guess and go that far away on that black line there. Hit the bottom of that gimming, and now try not to disturb the thread too much. Loop that thread like that, and we'll pull it out like that, and I'll take this side. First of all, let me get this out of the way. Now all the thread on this side is just going to go through this, and then pull this tight, get that out of the way. First of all, let's pull it tight, and now that loop is right there. We want to pull this one until it pulls that loop about halfway between. So we don't want that loop being on this side, we don't want it to be on the gimming side, we want it to be right in the middle. And you just kind of guess at it. That's what I've been doing. So we'll pull that to about there, and then we cinch it tight. And now we'll do it again. So try to hit that at that 45-degree angle. I keep forgetting to wear these readers. We hit it perfectly. Let me cinch this again so it squares this up. Hit the black line. This, alright, this little thread here is in my freaking way. Now, am I even in the black line? Yes. Bottom of the gimming. Feed all this through. I go ahead and pull it tight at the beginning, and then I pull that to the middle, and then I cinch it one more time, and so on and so forth. So let me get a little bit further along. We'll join in and show, I don't know, halfway across, and then we'll cut it, and then we'll show at the very end when I cut these two to match that angle and get all this done. As I approach this heel, this stuff is expected to make a, you know, to bend sideways, because it's supposed to be horizontal. And what you've got is, if you can see these slashes in it, they aid in that when you're going around. But what you want to do is, and I'm starting to do this already. Oh, one other thing, I messed up by not starting and going this direction, because then I can just peek. I'm right-handed, so I can peek down in there and see where I'm going, whereas I have made a mistake where now I find it hard to, okay, where am I on this? You know what I mean? There's our line, so start getting under the gimming there. Alright. So get far through to that point, hook the thread, pull it through, and then, as I said, pull that tight, pull that loop to about the middle. Now you got to sort of lift up on this as you tighten it. As you go around, what you don't want is for this to end up like this, and then when you try to flip it up, it just won't go. So if you continue to lift up on it to try to get it flat as you're stitching, that helps it to kind of conform to that shape as you're doing it. So whereas if you go all the way around and it's cinched tight on each side, then it just has no room to stretch when you're doing it that way. So all this stuff is all information that you find from Tony Wyatt on Wyatt and Dad Company, Cobbler Company's YouTube page. And so it's not like I knew any of this or was trained or any of that. I just watched YouTube. I'm a YouTube expert, which means I'm not an expert at all. So just thought I'd give a little dissertation on that whole deal, because I'm starting to do that already. Man, I really wish I would have went the other direction. I am not used to this. And then another thing that you want to do is you want to always try to aim your awl or hook needle or whatever towards the center. Like, let's say this is your circle, this is the center point. You don't want to be going through this like this. So all these I'm aiming towards something of a center of this arc that we're swinging here. And so with this one, I'm going to start pretty far out on the welt, because when I get to the inside of here, these stitches are going to be closer together, if that makes any sense. So something about like this. Let's see where we're coming out. That's actually a little bit, I don't really like that. But sometimes once you make the, I just blocked your, yeah, it's just going to have to be on that one. I want to give myself some slack on this stuff, so let's go up to about there, I guess. And then if you notice how close together the stitches are on the inside, because of course it's converging towards the center there. So pull that loop to the center, cinch it down, kind of lift up on it. You can see those things kind of stretching already. So see how it's already kind of sticking out flat. It's going to be a lot easier for me to get this thing, because when we get all this trimmed, when we get the cork filler and all that, I'll hammer this down, and that'll kind of make all this kind of flip up and be kind of nice and flat for the next step. So okay, now that we're nearing the end, I am going to attempt to make this splice. Try to match the angle, try to make it, I'm going to try to cut it just a little bit long so that these are kind of pushing against each other, just in case, I don't know, when I get everything flat, it might pull apart a little bit. So I'm just going to give myself a little bit of leeway. And last time I cut right towards the upper and I got pretty lucky. You can see how if you kind of hold it flat the way it's supposed to be. I don't really know. This is kind of hard to do, honestly. And that's a little bit long, but it's also, that thing goes at an angle that way. So I don't know. Just kind of winging it. I also have to match the angle that way somewhat. That's pretty good. I'm not going to get any better than that. So let me try to space my stitches out. You know what? I'm going to do one, well, wait, 1, 2, 3, and then come into this one. So I'm going to put these a little bit closer than I have been. And now, what I'll do, how do you do that? Ideally, you'd go from the inside, pull this one in there and do the knots and everything, but I don't have my curved, I broke my curved needle, so I'm going to carefully, I'm going to put this in on this original hole that I did at an angle so that I'm not cutting or basically disturbing that original thread hardly at all. I'm going to miss it completely because of doing that. I'm still missing it. What the heck? Alright, hang on. There we go. So I found the original hole. We're going to do the same thing we've been doing, but leave it like this. Put this thread all the way through, and now we're going to pull this back. Actually, no, hang on. Leave ourselves, don't pull that tight. Leave that like that. Now, that pulls that through. You can get this guy all the way through like that. And now, well, that welt looks like a mess over there, but oh well. Now, per Tony Wyatt, we will do 1, and then on this one you do sort of like a double knot. And pull it tight. Alright, so there it is, fully welted. So now I need to trim all this excess off carefully with a knife. I've got these fiberglass shanks left over from the 606s. Generally speaking, you don't need a shank with a wedge sole, but some wedge sole boots have shanks, and so I figured I have these left over from the 606s and I'm not going to use them on anything else. Why not just use them here? So that's what we'll do next, I guess. I don't know how well I'm going to be able to capture this, but basically what I'm going to do is kind of come down into this, and then I need to keep that knife at the perfect angle so that it's not cutting down into this gimming rib or cutting down into our new welt. And so you basically just keep kind of eyeing back and forth and adjusting that angle. Yep, see, I'm getting into the welt over here, so lift that side up a little more. I don't think that's that big a deal, but if I were to get into that gimming, I don't think that would be good. Till it looks like that. So, because this is so hard to capture, we're going to stop here and I'll just do the rest of this off camera, and then we'll come back and I'll glue on the shank, 2 layers of cork, hammer down this welt line here, and start getting ready to glue on the leather midsole. We're getting there. Let's continue.